it's went from accidental landlord to going to IKEA, making a couple of grand in your first one to quite a decent sized portfolio. But in between that, there was a lot of rent to rent, right? Is that what so you did the lease option, but was it mainly just rent to rent to this at the start, and then you use that cash flow to start purchasing? What did that look like?
So I actually stumbled onto rent to rent by accident. So I had enough money to buy one property, so I bought one, and then I started looking at the creative strategies, and then I got that lease option, and then I recycled the money out of property one and went and bought another one. And then I got into the world of investor funding quite quickly. Again, I just educate myself so much. I can't stress, I know you're into it. 5 years ago, I was on my, depression bed. I didn't want to do anything. Shit was falling down. And I just my mindset had to change. And then ever since then, I've invested a lot in myself in various different areas and continue to do so. And by doing that and getting the toolkit and getting the education and understanding what we can and can't do, you can then take action. And that's all I did. And then I then had another property, both of them in, Leamington, right? Not the best area, but I thought, you know what? I quite like the revenue off that first lease option Airbnb. So I'm going to give it a go. So I bought some furniture, sure enough, put it on. I wasn't expecting them to work, I'll be honest. And sure enough, boom, $2 grand, $3 grand just coming in. And you're like, Jesus, this really does work everywhere. And then I had, most of my stuff's just been solving problems. So I then had I noticed there was a lady kept booking one of the houses, but she kept coming through booking.com. Now, obviously we give 18% commission away to them. So I was like, I need to stop this. So I rang in. I said, is there any chance you could book direct with me next time? You've booked for 5 weeks in a row and I keep sending you emails, but you keep going on there. I had a good conversation with her. Anyway, lo and behold, she was the PA for the company who had contractors all over the Northeast for about 16 months. So I was like, how many rooms do you need? I can't remember how many it was. But it worked out about 7 or 8 houses. So me being me, I was like, yeah, I've got them. When do you want to move in? She was like, oh, well, our current thing comes to an end in 2 weeks. So I was like, shit, I need to find. So anyway, I just started picking the phone up to Gumtree adverts, anyone that I could think of, my friends, everybody, just like, if you've got a property I can rent, this is what I'm going to do. And this is, it's secured, it's done, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, I picked up 5 properties in 10 days doing that. And then I filled that contract and that was it. That was me away. I just, the money came in. And it wasn't until after that. So I watched it for a month or two and saw that the profit was coming in. And then I thought, okay, that's actually not a bad strategy, that. So, but then I realized and I read up a bit more and I found out it was called rent to rent, and it was an actual thing. I thought I created something, but no, it worked tremendously well. And I also thought at the beginning, okay, well, I'll do a bit of this until I've got enough cash just to buy assets all the time, and then I'll stop. But it just continues to work. So I don't really see why I'm ever going to stop unless it dramatically changes, because you do earn good cash flow from somebody else's property.
Love that. I think it's a great story, and just being creative, just thinking on your feet, running with things. You don't have to go down the conventional route all the time. You really don't, and you're a testament to that. And the fact that you're still doing it, I find interesting. I think some people think rent to rent is just for people who don't have enough capital to buy, right? I've definitely heard people say that before. But if you're then reinvesting that cash flow and there's little barriers to entry, little capital invested in the first place, you can probably buy 5 or 6 when it's equivalent to one deposit, right?
I mean, I've amassed a portfolio by reinvesting the rent to rent money. Earlier this year, I bought a building, which I'm going to turn into 16 flats. That was all from the net cash flow from rent to rent, so that's how we have, I call it the multiplier effect. So, you just, as long as you keep pumping it back in, it just continues to grow and grow and grow, as long as you know what you're doing. And that is the fundamental part of it. You've got to know what you're doing. And it's not just I got lucky or I got this. Yeah, there's probably an element of right place, right time, things like that. But at the same time, you've still got to understand it. You've still got to educate yourself. You've still got to be making the right decisions. And, you know, if you're not, you're picking up the wrong properties, you're overpaying on your rents, you're not controlling your costs, whatever. There's so many elements, as you know, to a business. If you're not understanding those on a day-to-day basis, it can quite quickly erode your cash as opposed to build your cash.
Good advice again, I think. Too many people are drawn in by the shiny penny syndrome of owning loads of properties, when in reality it's not that simple, is it? And in different level, there's a different devil. The higher you get, there's more shit that comes with it, isn't there? And you get different problems and different challenges, and they're a lot worse and bigger as you get bigger.